When you hear the name Rothschild, what comes to mind? Wealth, power, mystery? Well, you're not wrong. You see, the total wealth of the world is estimated at approximately $454 trillion. Yet, the Rothschild family stands apart, their wealth surpassing all others by a significant margin. They were among the first to engage in the strategic handling of finances during times of war. Today, they control about 20% of the world's total wealth, and unofficially, it's believed to be much more. Their wealth is so vast that they could theoretically provide for every individual on Earth, feeding, clothing, and housing every man, woman, and child if they chose to do so. If they wished, the Rothschilds could potentially own media outlets and entire governments.
The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. That was a quote from Nathan Rothschild. You see, the Rothschild family has impacted how markets are shaped, how financial policies are made, and even how entire nations operate.
The Rothschild name isn't just about cash. It's a story of revolution, family unity, and world-changing impact. These people shaped modern banking, influenced global politics, and left their mark on art and culture. Remarkably, their legacy is still going strong today. You might be wondering, why should I care about a wealthy family from centuries ago? Well, the Rothschild story is not just ancient history. The way we bank, how countries borrow money, and even some of the philanthropic work we see today all have Rothschild fingerprints on them.
And it begins with 3 words: Dear Lord Rothschild.
Across centuries, the House of Rothschild have wielded unprecedented dominance.
As they controlled more and more money, the Rothschilds became more and more powerful than entire governments.
During the course of the 19th century, the Rothschilds not only join the ranks of the rich and powerful, they overtake all of the competition.
This is what happened when the richest family in the world decided to create their own country.
To truly understand the Rothschild family's success, we need to go back to the 18th century, when a young Meyer was born into poverty. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it's the mid-1700s in Frankfurt, Germany. In a small house in the Jewish ghetto, a baby boy named Meyer Amschel Rothschild was born on February 23, 1744. Little did anyone know, this child would grow up to found one of history's most influential banking dynasties. Meyer wasn't born into money. His parents had a small trading business, but they passed away when he was just 12. Instead of giving up, young Meyer decided to make something of himself. He went to Hanover, became a banking apprentice, and discovered he was good with money. After gaining experience, Meyer returned to Frankfurt. He began buying and selling rare coins and antiques, quickly earning a reputation as a smart businessman. Here is where Meyer showed his talent. He realized rare coins weren't just valuable items. They were a way to do bigger financial deals. He became an expert in exchanging different currencies, acting like a one-person foreign exchange market. Meyer didn't stop there. He started giving financial advice to rich clients, including Prince William of Hesse. In 1769, he officially established the Rothschild banking business and also gained the title of court agent. Meyer's secret weapon was his family. As his sons grew up, he trained them in finance, creating a team that would soon take the banking world by storm. Meyer had 5 sons who were all very talented. In the early 1800s, when Europe was chaotic because of Napoleon's wars, most people would lay low. But the Rothschilds saw an opportunity. Meyer sent 4 of his sons to different cities: Nathan to London, James to Paris, Salomon to Vienna, and Karl to Naples. The eldest son, Amschel, stayed in Frankfurt. It was like a real-life game of Risk, but with banks. These brothers didn't just open separate banks. They created a connected network. They used pigeons to send messages quickly, giving them a big advantage in the financial markets. They worked closely with nobles and kings, offering services like personal banking and government loans. Take Nathan in London. This financial mastermind became friends with the British government and helped fund their wars against Napoleon. James in Paris charmed the French aristocracy, while Salomon in Vienna and Karl in Naples became key players in Austrian and Italian finances. The best part? Even though each brother had his own bank, they all worked together. They shared resources and information, presenting a united team. This teamwork allowed them to handle bigger projects and reduce their risks. By the mid-1800s, the Rothschilds had banks in 5 major European cities, a large network of agents, and connections with kings and government officials across the continent. The question most people tend to ask is, how did the Rothschilds amass their legendary fortune? Well, you are about to get the answer to that. First, let's talk about war. Remember that. War is bullish.
For the House of Rothschild, wars become a profitable business.
The Rothschilds made a killing financing European governments during the Napoleonic Wars. Nathan Rothschild developed a system for delivering gold to Wellington's army. But here's the clever part. They didn't just lend money, they bought and sold government bonds, profiting when countries won wars. Next up, international transfers. The Rothschilds used their network of family banks to move money quickly and safely across Europe. This made them indispensable to governments and businesses alike. But the Rothschilds weren't content with just making money. They pioneered the use of trusts and other legal structures to protect their assets and pass them down through generations. They also diversified, investing in railroads, mining operations, and real estate. And let's not forget about information. The Rothschilds had an unparalleled network of agents and couriers, often getting crucial information before anyone else.
And a lot of that success was rooted in their ability to communicate. They had an incredibly sophisticated network, secret network of communication, which meant that they were able to get news from one brother to the other, so much so, in fact, that the news of Wellington's victory at Waterloo arrived with Nathan 24 hours before the official news arrived with the British government.
This allowed them to make smart investment decisions ahead of the curve. By the mid-19th century, the Rothschild family's wealth was staggering. Some estimates suggest they were the richest family in the world at the time.
By the early 1900s, the Rothschilds were already the most powerful family in Europe. They were so wealthy that they had even given loans to the entire country of France to stabilize the economy.
But a lot of their wealth was hidden. They were masters of discretion, often working behind the scenes and keeping their true net worth a mystery. The Rothschilds didn't just make money, they changed how the entire financial world worked. Now you must be wondering, how did they do that? Well, let's take a closer look at it. First up, international banking.
International banks exist because the Rothschilds did it first.
Before the Rothschilds, banking was mostly local. They took it global, offering services no one else could. Need to transfer money from London to Vienna? The Rothschilds had you covered. This laid the groundwork for our modern global financial system. Next, the bond market. The Rothschilds basically invented it.
The Rothschilds also invented the concept of using government bonds to raise money for the government.
They were the first to grasp the potential of government bonds for moving money internationally. This allowed governments to borrow more easily and cheaply, financing everything from wars to industrial revolutions. Speaking of industrial revolutions, the Rothschilds were major investors in European railways. This wasn't just about profit. It was about creating infrastructure for modern economies to flourish. Now let's talk about the gold standard. The Rothschilds were key players in establishing and maintaining it. Their vast resources and international network allowed them to move gold around the world quickly, helping stabilize exchange rates between currencies. Perhaps their biggest contribution was to central banking. The family had close ties to the Bank of England, which became a model for central banks worldwide. The idea of a national bank controlling the money supply and setting interest rates, that's got Rothschild fingerprints all over it. From international banking to central banking, the Rothschilds shaped modern finance in ways we're still feeling today. Now things are about to get interesting. We're delving into the world of politics, and the Rothschilds were right in the thick of it. Imagine this. It's the early 19th century. Europe is a mess, and everyone is trying to keep the peace. Enter the Rothschilds with something politicians desperately needed: money. But they weren't just writing blank checks. These guys were way smarter than that. They played a crucial role in financing the British war effort against Napoleon and helped arrange the financial side of peace negotiations. Nathan's foresight after the Battle of Waterloo is often hailed as one of the most audacious financial moves in history. Anticipating that peace would reduce government borrowing and stabilize the economy, he bought a vast amount of British government bonds. After holding these bonds through a period of market stabilization, he sold them in 1817 at a 40% profit. This maneuver not only demonstrated the Rothschilds' deep understanding of financial markets, but also their ability to influence them. Nathan initially set up his business in Manchester in 1806, but moved it to London shortly thereafter. By 1809, he had established a base at 2 New Court in St. Swithin's Lane, which remains the headquarters of N.M. Rothschild and Sons to this day. His financial influence grew so significant that by 1818, he was arranging multi-million-pound loans to governments, like the £5 million loan to Prussia. By the mid-1820s, his influence was so profound that he was able to provide the Bank of England with sufficient coins to help it avert a liquidity crisis in the market. Nathan was so close to the British government that he was often consulted on financial matters before the Bank of England. Through these strategic and often bold financial practices, the Rothschilds did not merely participate in the markets, they shaped them, wielding a level of power that few could match. Their actions and decisions reverberated through the financial corridors of Europe, cementing their status as one of the most influential and enigmatic families in the history of banking. The Rothschilds also had a knack for building relationships with the right people. They became friends and advisors to many of Europe's most powerful figures.
They were involved in finance and politics, and Nathan's son Lionel in 1847 was elected as MP for the City of London. Lionel's son Natty was also very involved in politics. He gave advice to the government on financial matters.
By the end of the century, the Rothschild name was synonymous with political influence. They weren't just bankers anymore. They were kingmakers and behind-the-scenes players in some of the biggest political events of their time. Following their monumental success in finance, the Rothschilds turned their attention to philanthropy and legacy building, profoundly shaping the world beyond the confines of banking. During the height of industrialization in Europe, they pioneered international high finance and played a crucial role in developing railway systems worldwide. They managed complex government financing for massive infrastructure projects such as the Suez Canal. From 1895 to 1907 alone, they loaned nearly $450 million to various European governments, equivalent to about $15 billion today, facilitating industrial growth and economic expansion. In the early 19th century, the Rothschilds were intricately involved in the independence of Brazil from Portugal. They orchestrated a deal requiring the Brazilian government to compensate the Kingdom of Portugal with £2 million sterling to recognize Brazil's independence. N.M. Rothschild and Sons raised the necessary capital on the London market, securing a total of $4.5 million over 2 years to cover both the compensation and prior debts to Portugal, showcasing their significant influence in geopolitical affairs. Their vast wealth also supported the establishment and control of several major 19th century businesses and projects, such as Alliance Assurance, now part of Royal & Son Alliance, a major player in the insurance industry. Chemin de Fer du Nord, a key railway company that expanded transportation in northern France, and Rio Tinto, a major mining company they controlled from the 1880s. They also supported ventures like Eramet and Imerys, important players in the mining and processing industries, and De Beers, the diamond mining giant founded by Cecil Rhodes with their backing. Additionally, the Rothschilds' financial influence extended to funding wars. During the Russo-Japanese War, the Japanese government secured significant loans from Rothschild-led consortiums in London and Paris, totaling $14.5 million in war bonds, a testament to their capability to mobilize enormous capital on an international scale. The Rothschild name became synonymous with extraordinary wealth and luxury, known not just for their financial acumen, but also for their vast art collections, magnificent palaces, and generous philanthropy. By the turn of the century, they had constructed more than 41 palaces, rivaling even the wealthiest royal families in scale and opulence. Their influence was so pervasive that in 1909, David Lloyd George, the British Chancellor of the Exchequer, named Nathan, Lord Rothschild, as the most powerful man in Britain. We have taken quite a journey through Rothschild's history, but don't think for a second that their story ended back in the 19th century. The Rothschild saga is still unfolding, and it's just as fascinating in the modern era. Are the Rothschilds still filthy rich? Well, yes and no. They're definitely not hurting for cash, but they're not topping the Forbes billionaire list either. The family fortune has been divided and diluted over generations. Banking is still a big part of the Rothschild brand.
Banking remains, if you like, the thing we're best known for, but it's not necessarily the thing we're most proud of.
Rothschild & Company is a global financial advisory group that's still very much a family business, but they've seriously diversified their portfolio.
Over the centuries, we've diversified, and so my grandfather Victor and my great-aunt Miriam were very, very distinguished scientists. My great-aunt Nika was a terrific kind of jazz patron. My aunts Emma and Victoria are academics.
They're in real estate, technology startups, and even the wine business. Ever heard of Chateau Lafite Rothschild? They got their hands dirty in this wine company too. From high finance to fine wine, from tech startups to philanthropic foundations, the Rothschild influence is still felt in many areas of modern life. They may not be controlling the world's money supply, but they're still a force to be reckoned with. It's a reminder that influence can take many forms, from financial clout to cultural impact. And perhaps most importantly, it's a story that's still being written. So the next time you hear the name Rothschild, whether it's on a bottle of wine or in the financial news, remember you're not just hearing about a wealthy family. You're hearing about a living piece of history, a name that's been shaping the world for over 2 centuries. And who knows, maybe the best chapters of the Rothschild story are yet to come.
I think you become aware the name has a kind of pulling power, and the name sometimes gets a second take.
The Rothschilds didn't get into banking because they wanted to make the world a better place. They did it because they wanted power.
Their strong bond as a family and their unique way of doing business are reasons they're still successful today.
If the Rothschilds wanted something, they'd better get it, or they'd be held to pay.